everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here. As major group coordinator, I want to show a hand. Who knows what major groups are? Okay, and who knew what major groups were before they got in this room today? Exactly, that's one of the problems we're having. All right, so let's go back in history here. Major groups were basically named and specified 20 years ago at Rio, the original conference at the original Earth Summit held in Rio, where basically government, all of our member states, all of our government recognized that sustainable development could not be achieved, could not be put in place, could not be implemented without having all of the actors playing at the table together and hearing each other. And basically they said, okay, who are the groups that we could work with that could be our interlocutor when we're trying to develop policies, when we try to develop means of implementation. And they came up with 9 of them. And the children and youth is actually the second one in that agenda. Women, children and youth, indigenous peoples, NGOs, local authorities, workers and trade unions, business and industry, scientific technical community, and farmers. So they said, okay, these are the group that we should hear from to make sure that we go in the right direction. That was 20 years ago. Since then, we've been working. My role is basically to facilitate the participation of these players at the UN with the member state through the rules that are made by the UN. I give it to you. Working with the UN is not the simplest thing, I can tell you that. I've been there since almost 5 years now, it's something else. But it still is an opportunity. If you're willing to be persistent and jump through the hurdles, you actually can accomplish something. And that's very important. That's my message to you today. I am fascinated. I am excited that you guys are doing this New York +20. I can't wait for all the other ones. And please make noise. Please make sure you go to the social media. You work with Ivana and Chiara, who are our major, that are our major group organizing partners. We really need you. If for some of you that have followed the negotiation, it's going a little slow. It's picking up a little bit. There's only 8 days of negotiation left. We don't have a text that is going to be groundbreaking. Just to give you an idea, there's a petition right now out there asking for member states to not go back further than we were 20 years ago. So clearly, the negotiations are not going in the right direction for some of the civil society. There's another petition out there to make sure that the text is human rights based, that we do not lose the human rights, which is the basis of the UN declaration. So basically, just again, there's another petition out there to ensure that the business and industry, the corporation, do not take over leading the UN. So it just gives you an idea of some of the fear out there. So the member states, the champion in our government, the people that want to do the right thing, that know we need to change the way we do business, need to hear from you. If they don't feel the pressure, and believe me, I get a lot of them that comes to me and say, I'm talking to the parliament, I'm talking to ministers, but they don't feel any pressure from civil society. I'm like, all right, we're going to solve the problem. So when I was invited to come to this meeting today, I'm like, yeah, I got a message, all right. They need to hear from you. You still have 2 months. 2 months with the social media that we have right now is a lot of time, as you know. There is an issue that most member states do agree about right now, is the fact that having the largest percentage of youth unemployment in the entire history of mankind is not sustainable. This is not leading to sustainable development. And this is something where they need to hear you. The education that we have right now is not preparing you for that transition to the green economy. What is needed to make sure you're going to be prepared for that new economy, you can contribute and be hired properly and create your own job in that new sector. They also realize that having a lot of youth and young people, well-educated, well-spoken, well-connected, that do not have jobs is not sustainable. It leads to social unrest. So how can you help them come up with a solution to that? They need to hear from you about these issues. They need to hear from you that you're not going to take it, and that you can actually be part of the solution to this. And there's very specific means at the UN to do that. First of all, you have a seat at the table. You are within the compound. You are in the room negotiating. Well, you're not negotiating. You're listening to negotiation, and then you go back inside and talk to the member state, the negotiators, and tell them, well, in that paragraph, what needed is this. And that's basically what a lot of people representing you, including Chiara and Ivana, are doing in the room. There's a lot of stuff that you can do outside as well, but there's a lot that can be done inside. I also want to mention that there's a lot of work that has been already done. So basically, for the first time ever, for this conference, for Rio+20, we had a public call for input from everybody from this planet. That has never happened in the history of the UN. So we have an opening right now of basically, because of social media and the very low cost of communication, where we've invited everybody to submit. We received 6,000 pages of comments for the initial outcome document for Rio+20 that we have to turn back in about 3 weeks into a 20-page document. And then, of course, through the negotiation, it went back up to 206 pages, and then it's back down now to about a little less than that. And now we need to, according to member state, have a 20-page document by the end of the 22nd of June. So this is kind of what we need to do. Now, the size is one thing, but the content is even more important. Each of you need to look at these, those of you that are politically savvy, that want to follow the politics. You need to look at this text. And every time there's this mention of youth, children and youth, employment, decent job, you need to make sure that this reflects what you want to be seen in that document. That's going to be the document that's going to lead what we're going to do probably for the next 20 years. That's your generation, your entire generation. So it's an important document. Inside and outside of the UN, you need to have your voice heard. It's also important, just to give you an idea, that it's true that in the past, it's easy to get discouraged because we often hear on the news and we talk to some of these governments, we read in the news about these very depressing comments from our government. But I really, really want you to remember that in each of our government, and I'm Canadian right now, it's a little hard, but it's hard for the American as well and some other countries. But basically, in each of our government, they are champions. They want to hear from us. They're the one to come to me and say, what the heck are they doing? We need to hear, like we're trying to push the ministers, but they're not feeling it. You have champion in each of your government, in each of the ministries, education, environment, foreign affairs, talk to them. They're not gods. They're just people like you and me. They're just a little older and they got elected and they're in these offices. They want to hear from you. You can talk to them. The Secretary General, when he did his speech for his second terms at the UN as Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, basically emphasized the fact that who knows what the priorities of Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General of the UN, are for the next 5 years? Would you think that sustainable development is one of them? Children and youth? Yes. Well, guess what? Both of them are. These two very important issues are top priority for him for the next 5 years. You have an open door here. We have a meeting next week. You're going to be presenting whatever you've done here, which is fantastic, by the way. It's so refreshing to listen to you guys after being in that negotiating room for a week. You're going to be presenting those at a side event on Monday. But also, Ivana and Chiara are also preparing a statement that will be made from Children and Youth to the member states on Monday morning on the current text, negotiating text. So some of this, I'm sure Ivana and Chiara are here to listen to you to make sure that it's incorporated. For the first time, we've got an invitation by the ECOSOC president. That's basically the one that ECOSOC is the one body of the UN that deal with all the social and economic affairs. And they basically invited all the major groups on next Thursday to come and tell them about how can we make sustainable development happen together? How can we help you? How can we do this? This has never happened. You have a 5 to 7 minute speech each of the major groups can make. That includes the children and youth. To include some of the work that you've been doing here, and hopefully some of the work that will be going on in the other cities, to present it directly to the member state and those that make the decision at the United Nations. So the work that you do will be carried to the UN. There's also, at the high-level conference in Rio, there will be high-level roundtable with the heads of state. We have 120 heads of state confirmed so far. And there will be roundtables. At each of these roundtables with heads of state from different countries, there will be 2 major groups per table, including the children and youth. And basically, their role would be to feed into the discussion of these areas, which is about implementing sustainable development. So there are various opportunities. I also want to let you know that whatever you do, even if you do a small little project in your city or your country, or in this case, all of the City Plus 20s, you need to upload this information on the UN website. We have a major group page where it's designed to receive this information. So when member state can see that you are doing activities. If you have position paper, these things that you just presented can be uploaded once you clean them up and put them into a readable format so that everybody and other kids around the world, or the children in you and other My City organizers can see what you have done here. I also want to mention the fact that we were told over the last week by the Brazilian organizers that there's a whole area called the arena across the street from the Rio Central where you will need to be accredited to get it. It's a huge area that's where they do all the parties, all the big shows in Brazil. And they know how to do shows in Brazil, believe me. Lived there 2 years, they're awesome. So there's this one area that has a 14,000 people space to do, and they're welcoming cultural and other events in that space, and there will be some meeting room available. So, you have about until May 10 to request those spaces. So if there is an interest, please talk to your organizers and have them let me know, and I'll put you in touch with our Brazilian colleagues that organize those. Because it would be fantastic to have a high-level event, something musical, something cultural, something where we all can relate to, delivered by the children in youth that will be right there. And believe me, after days of negotiation, they might just need that break and having a caipirinhas and listening to some cool music and cool stuff that you guys have done. I'm sure I'm forgetting things, but I'm running out of time, so I'll close here, and everybody knows where to find me, and you can always please contact Kiara. Oh, I mentioned, I knew I was saying something. Thanks to the EU really believe into supporting civil society participation and integration into decision making. They gave us a grant to help the participation of society in major groups. So that's the money with which we bring people to these negotiations, and we'll bring some people to Rio. It's very limited, but as part of that contract, what we did is to hire two children and youth to help Kiara and Ivana and others support you. There's a lot of stuff you guys are doing, and right now the problem we're having is that it's very dispersed, and it's great that it's blooming, but there needs to be some cohesion. We need to put it all together and aggregate it and show that all together it's a lot. So that's something that hopefully we're going to have those contracts by Monday, so these people are going to be up and running so shortly. So just want to mention this. Thank you.